Good morning from our first ever post-game breakfast show on the Same Old Arsenal podcast. But it will be good afternoon and it will be good evening to many others around this wonderful Guna globe of ours. It is very strange to be sitting here at 10:30 on a Sunday morning, but very good as well. Anyway, welcome back to my podcast brothers. Cookie, lovely to see you.
Yeah, lovely to see you as well, Amanda. Looking forward to talking through what was a fabulous night at the Emirates Stadium yesterday.
Fabulously epic. Wonderful. And talking about epic, below me is Suburban Gooner, our own Chris. How are you, darling?
I'm a little bit hoarse. I had a few jars of something last night, and then I watched a football team smash another football team, and my voice is a little bit knackered. So, yes. How are you, Amanda? So, because there's some stuff that's been happening, isn't there? That you were on radio. And we were just talking about it before we went live, because I haven't actually seen any of it. So, what's gone on before we get into the nice stuff?
Until we get into the nice stuff. But it was nice. So BBC Radio Newcastle asked me to come on and talk about the game Friday evening. I was very happy to. Really lovely host. And there was another guy in the studio called John Anderson, apparently played for Newcastle in the 80s. I don't mean to be funny, but I thought I would have heard of him. No disrespect, but I didn't. But anyway, really good chat. And I thought I'd be on for like my normal standard 90 seconds. It was 9 minutes of me and them back and forwards. And it was really, really interesting chat because the host was great, just asking questions. But Ando, as they call him, was trying to, banter with me, trying to push me into saying things. So, for instance, he was saying, back in November, we were really pleased that Havertz wasn't sent off because he wasn't very good for you. And I was saying, well, and then the host went something like, yeah, he's not really like fitted in as a, and I said, you obviously have not watched our last 5 games then. And we were talking about that. Then he was saying, Ando, do you think Mikel Arteta will stay in his lane and not throw his toys out? My back went through the roof, but I answered quite well. And I just said, what would you like our players to do? Just run down the tunnel and go, cheerio, cheerio, well done, lads. I said, well, I'm sorry, that's not football, and no manager would approve of that, and no fans want that. I said, no, I've got no issue with Jurgen Klopp doing it. And Klopp actually came out yesterday and said it wasn't him that criticised Arteta. He's got no issue with it because he does it. And why not? I want my manager to run up and down the line. I don't think he's out of order at all, and I would point that out. So we had a bit of banter going backwards and forwards. They tried to goad me. I wasn't cocky at all. I didn't say we would win. I didn't want to predict. I just basically said, it's going to be a good game as long as you don't time waste and Bruno doesn't raise his arms, we'll be all good. So we had a little bit of banter. But in the day, I had joked that I was going to upset the Geordie Nation with Red Action on Twitter. Just a little joke, really nothing. But really, from 7 a.m. yesterday morning, the abuse that I was sent via some Newcastle fans on Twitter was not acceptable. Now, let me just get this out there. It did not bother me one bit. Not one iota. Not the sexism, everything that came with it. They criticised my looks, every single thing they could do, they did. And they went for it all day long. Now, and I promise you, I was not bothered one iota. However, the reason I want to talk about this is the fact that some other females on Twitter may have been bothered. It may have affected them. I was criticised for every part of my anatomy on my face, on everything. Now, everyone who knows these podcasts knows the fact that I am very sarcastic and I'll answer with sarcasm. And as you can see in the chat room, some of the people were standing up for me. Thank you, Carl. That's really, really, really sweet. And Joe, honestly not here to discuss me. I'm here to discuss the fact that football fans do not have a right to go and abuse females anywhere, and especially on social media. I have to say this truthfully. This could affect someone really badly, and I know someone that it would have affected. Absolutely. So it's a really, really strong point here that I don't care who you support, who you are, show some respect. It was a joke. I made a joke. Now, I had one Newcastle fan DM me and apologise, which was lovely. He'd never said anything wrong. but it's not necessary, and it can affect someone's mental health. It went on from 7 a.m. yesterday, probably to early morning today. Most of the time, I just answered with sarcasm. Loads of it I ignored. But at the end of the day, don't do it, people. It's not on. And I promise you I'm fine. But I'd like to thank everybody that stuck up for me. I know, and look, you can see that it isn't acceptable. I agree, Fiona. Jobo had people go for her because she stuck up for me. She said, I had some too after I stood up for you. It doesn't bother me, but some would have been upset. Exactly the same. Me and Joe are made of the same sort of makeup. We're not interested, but other people could have been. The chat was great. BBC Radio Newcastle actually mentioned the tweet conversations as I joined the show. They saw it. So they even said, oh, yeah, I can see you've had some tweets from our fans. I said, yeah, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. Bring them on. Don't bother me. But it could bother someone else. So I'd like to thank everyone for that. Please be mindful of other teams' fans. If, like, for instance, when what happened in November that we all felt very hard done by with Gabrielle, it doesn't mean you need to go and abuse a female Newcastle fan or any fan to that effect, because it does and it can affect someone's mental health. So let's be mindful, people. So that's the, that's the negative part out of the way. I would like to say it was the most incredible evening, incredible build up and everything. So what we're going to start with is the fact that we were discussing in the day, me and Carl and a few others, that we'd like Jorginho to start. So Cookie, when he did start, were you okay with the teams? What Mikel put out there on Saturday? Sorry, my teeth. Are you okay with the team lineup?
Yeah, I was more than happy with the team lineup. And when I watched Jorginho yesterday, particularly in that first half, you just can't help but think, why did you not start in the game against Porto? And I really hope when it comes to the return leg at the Emirates Stadium, he gets a look in, because he's just making us tick. And I said it on a previous podcast, I think it was the post-Liverpool one, that we are getting the best out of Jorginho now because he's got someone like Declan Rice alongside him that just sweeps up, that lets him do all the good things that he can do. And I really hate this notion that when we line up with Jorginho and Declan Rice in the same midfield, that it's defensive. It's really not. It's probably one of the most attacking midfields you're going to see, because Jorginho, okay, he plays a little bit deeper, but he's so good at breaking the lines, playing the ball forward, linking up with other players. I mean, I think we actually play so much faster with him in the team, which is a bit ironic because he's notorious for being quite a slow guy. And okay, when he's not got the ball at his feet, he can be. And you certainly don't want to catch him on the half turn. But when he's linking up with Ødegaard, Saka, White, just anyone in the team, his footballing brain, his understanding, his chemistry is second to none. So he's so good at moving the ball quickly. Rice is able to get that bit more forward. And I just think it just works so perfectly. I think for the Champions League in particular, that midfield three, I wouldn't change a thing. And to have been so dominant against Newcastle at home, I think it shows that arguably this could well be our strongest midfield.
Absolutely. And Chris, Jorginho, we worked out was about 10.5 million quid. 10.5 million quid, and he is getting better and better every game. And I will say that there's a new documentary on Amazon called Married to the Game. He's featured, his family are featured, his everything to do with Arsenal. Honestly, I'm more in love with Jorginho now in the last month or so than I've ever been. I've only just started watching the episodes the last couple of days. What a man, what a player for 10.5 million quid.
Yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. Do you know what's really, really interesting is I think Arteta has he's been quite sensible with the way that he's using him, because, he's not played all of the time. And I think when we signed him, we all just thought, good rotational player, but he needs to have an impact. And I think he's had an injury, hasn't he, for at the beginning of the year, and he's missed a couple of games. I just feel like Arteta sort of held him back, but he's also in certain games, he's absolutely perfect. I feel like the game at St James's Park, I mean, he did get punched, elbowed in the head, and then pushed over and barged over, and he did get targeted a bit. But the game last season at St James's Park as well, he played really, really well. there are certain matches, there are certain teams that he seems to play really, really well in. He's played well when we've played Man City as well. So for me, this was an absolute perfect move to bring him in. And as Cookie just said, kind of to release us a little bit as a team, to play a little bit quicker with a little bit more attack. And I was just so glad that the way we started the game, because it was like a real intensity. There was like this is the revenge pod. Like, this was the revenge game yesterday.
Not revenge pod, revenge game.
A revenge pod and a revenge game. But yesterday it was like the team were like, nah, we're not having this from the game at St James's Park. We're not going to have you lot mess us around. And secondly, we're a bit cheesed off after what happened in Porto.
Absolutely. And funnily enough, and there's just two things I want to mention. If anyone wants to listen to the interview I had, it's on our YouTube channel. It's 9 minutes. You might enjoy it. Also, I wanted to say hello to our sponsor who has decided to join us. Hello, Mrs. Ruth Beck. She's woken up today with a huge smile and a happy heart. Come on, you Gunners. For anyone that doesn't know that Ruth sponsors our show, have you not been listening? She does the most amazing artwork, badges, bits and bobs. You need to go and see her Etsy shop, ruthbeckart.com. And I wore my East Stand badge that she sent me. We are the East Stand, because we are. And I just want to mention something else about the East Stand as well. Two of the people that sit next to me, John and Denise, actually said to me yesterday, we listened to your pod. And I was so chuffed, because that my life at football is very different to my social media life and the podcast. And they're in the chat room. And I did say, if they were able to watch this morning, to say hello. So everyone say hello to John and Denise. They have to put up with me. That's all I'm going to say. And they have done since we've moved to the Emirates. And John said, treat these morons with contempt. You know me, John. You know I did. Okay, so welcome to the show. And where were we? Sorry, my brain is so much.
Jorginho. We were talking about the opening exchanges.
Havertz. I want to talk about Havertz. So the two players that we took from Chelsea, the two players that loads and loads and loads and loads of Arsenal fans threw their toys out of, are coming so good. Cookie, it's like Mikel No, 60 million down the drain. Hello.
Yeah, absolutely. Havertz yesterday, as he has been in all of these games, probably for a couple of months now, he's just adding so much to the attack. I really wish he'd have scored that goal right after half time, because that would have been fabulous. I mean, his run, the movement, the pass from Martinelli. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that if it had gone to VAR, it probably would have been called offside. But it was, a fabulous move. And he took his first goal really well. I mean, he just adds so much to our attack. And the way we're playing at the minute, I know we had Gabriel Jesus back on the bench yesterday, which is fantastic beyond belief, because we need these numbers back. But I don't really think you drop him from leading the line. But it's good to have these options, and I think what he's adding up top is just great. The way he's interlinking with the players around him, the way he's bringing others into the game. He's another one of these footballing brains. He's just so good at being in the right place at the right time. Those fluid movements, making brilliant runs. Really happy with his performance, and he's showing that he's worth, I'm not going to say every penny of that 65 million just yet, but he's certainly on the right path to showing exactly why Arteta brought him into this team. And I hope it continues, because if he can carry on playing like this, getting goals, assists. I mean, he got a goal and an assist yesterday. If he can do this on a more regular basis, those numbers that weren't looking so good in the first half of the season are going to go and, hopefully skyrocket in the second half. I can see Carl in the chat saying that it was onside.
Yeah.
Let's beg to differ, Carl. If it had gone to VAR, we all know how long that could have gone on for.
I was hoping it was offside, because he missed, and that was right. Well, that was coming towards both of you, wasn't it, in the North Bank? And I was, in the East Stand upper thinking, Kai, no, it would have been the icing on the cake. However, he did score a lovely goal, and we will get into that in a moment. But you know what I'm thinking, Chris? Havertz, he's under the radar, isn't he? And I think what Cookie's saying is correct. If he was more clinical, he'd be absolutely outstanding. And who would have thought, 4 or 5 months ago, we would be talking about Havertz like that? But to be fair on this show, we always give people a chance. We don't throw our toys out. Whoever Mikel signs, you have to A, support them, and B, give them a chance. We'll get on to Raya in a moment as well. Chris, any further thoughts on Havertz? Can you see him improving on his finishing?
I don't think we'll see an improvement on his finishing, because I think that's just the player that he is. But I think maybe the players are starting to understand his movement, and that's helping him. It does feel like the way that we've started to play recently, where we're very, very mobile and flexible and fluid in our movement. So you've got particularly when you've got Trossard that's then playing up top, and then he's interchanging with Havertz, and the front sort of 3 or 4. There's a lot of movement going on. I think Havertz is almost as if the click has happened. So I do think that we're starting to see the benefit of more time spent together. And Havertz, to be fair, he said that at the beginning of the season, when he was going through a rough patch, he did say, it takes time with new teammates and stuff like that. We can all talk about how, he's played in the Premier League, and so adaptation period should be a little bit easier. But ultimately, he is playing with a whole new set of players. He's in a whole new system, and Arteta is asking him to do things that he wasn't being asked to do at Chelsea. So maybe it does always take time. I mean, I like having him as an option, but I'm still not 100% convinced as him as that sort of central focal point. I still want another sort of big name striker that gives us something different. And I think when Gabby Jesus is fully fit, for certain games, I still think it works. But there are some games that you just feel like they're Kai Havertz games. And yesterday was definitely one of them.
So, Cookie, 25 goals in 6 games, but Chris still wants maybe a striker, someone different that we can put in there when need be, different teams and stuff like that. Do you agree? Or can you see what Mikel's doing with all the teams scoring? Because half the team score.
Well, Chris, I think it's interesting what you say there, mate, about there are some games for Kai Havertz. I think Havertz has played in more or less every single game for us this season. Carabao Cup games, Champions League games, FA Cup, every single Premier League game virtually. So whether he's playing in that left 8 role, whether he's playing up top, I think in the left 8 position earlier on in the season, I feel like a burden is a bit of a dramatic word to use, but he certainly wasn't working in the way that he is now. Whereas at this moment in time, I'm very comfortable with him either playing in midfield or leading the line, because his understanding of the players around him has improved vastly, which plays on that point that you made there. I think he is so in with the chemistry of all the players around him, and I think that's great. Am I looking at Arsenal to sign a striker in the summer? I would like to see a forward. I'm not necessarily sure that has to be a striker. I just think the way we're playing at the minute, I'm not convinced by Ivan Toney. I know he's the name on everybody's lips. I don't want him, to be quite honest with you. I don't think he improves us. I really don't like his attitude, and I just don't think that he's the man that could take us forward, could take us to another level. And then you're looking at players like Victor Osimhen. Am I totally convinced that if you buy him for 110, 120 million, that he's going to slot into the team and suddenly take us on to another level? I don't know. I think he's got Chelsea written all over him. I can see him going there and scoring 5 goals and having an injury-plagued campaign next season. So, just speaking off the top of my head here, but I wouldn't have a problem with us bringing in just an alternative option up top, because I think we've got good options up top now. The players I'd be looking to move on are some of the guys that came into the game yesterday: Eddie Nketiah, Reece Nelson. I think these are Arteta's. I mentioned it in the last podcast against Burnley, but these are the guys he brings on when the game is effectively won. He doesn't bring them on in situations where we need to win the game. So I would look to try and get some revenue in from those guys and put those towards a different option up top, whether that's a striker, whether it's a wide forward. I'm not entirely sure what that looks like, but whilst we've got Kai Havertz doing so well, Trossard doing so well, and we've got Gabriel Jesus, we're definitely not short of options up there. And also look at how many times Saka drifted into central areas yesterday. It doesn't have to be the striker that gets the goal, but I would like another option up there, but I'm just not sure if that's a wide man or a centre forward. Ideally, it's both.
Just to everybody in the chat room, you're all talking about City. We will get there. So whether we can win at the Etihad, we've
got a couple more games to win first, haven't we?
Exactly. And also, please get your questions in. Hopefully, we'll have a bit more time today so we can answer them all. I've already starred a few, but any questions you've got for any of us, excuse me, anything about the Arsenal, we're happy to answer. What I want to do is I just want to start at the beginning, because if you could sum up the first half in one word, okay, for me, it's relentless. Absolutely relentless. Now, coming off the back of Porto, they did ask me on the radio, do I think, we're going to hang over for Porto? I said, if we were away from home, maybe, but I didn't see it happening as a hangover on Saturday. We knew at 8 o'clock Saturday night the ground was going to be rocking. It was rocking. And we just knew that the last 5 Premier League games, we've just trounced everybody. I did not expect, Chris, that amount of, I don't even know how to put it.
Intensity.
Yeah.
That's the word. Intensity, cohesion, discipline, wonderful pressing, everything. So for me, it was relentless. It was incredible to watch. I couldn't believe the first half was nearly over. Newcastle came into the game at the 44th minute. I think they had a chance. It was like all guns blazing.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Do you want? I'll give you some stats from that first half because this is crazy. Like expected goals 0.00 from Newcastle, total shots 0, shots on target 0, block shots 0, 0 corners. They gave away 8 free kicks. They had 37%. This is the first half only. That was like dominant Arsenal. That was Arsenal coming out with a point to prove. That was Arsenal a little bit cheesed off as to how they'd performed probably against Porto. But also, no doubt Arteta will have said, you saw what happened at St. James's Park. Let's go at them now. And within the first sort of 15, 20 minutes, you just knew this was going to be one of those games where we were just going to completely dominate. I mean, we scored that own goal on 18 minutes, but I feel like there was a chance or two even before that. And even 2-0 at half-time kind of flattered Newcastle because Saka forced a save. I know we'll get into the goals, but Saka forced a save. Martinelli headed over. There were chances, even if you put the goals that we did score to one side.
Oh, absolutely. And, Cookie was wonderful, wasn't it? We had a light show, North London Forever. We were singing our hearts out. We were loving it. And we all want Kai Havertz to score so we can sing the most funniest song with the most atmospheric fans. I love it. The minute he scored, I was up singing already. I loved it. And I think this is what football's all about and the fun side of it. And the fact that we are 2 points behind the leaders at the end of February is perfect. And I know people keep saying to me, no, I want to be top. I don't want to be top. I want to be top in April, May. That's when you want to be top. Not now. We've been top now. We were top last year probably at this time. It doesn't mean anything. Be there, be amongst it, a point behind City. And when City play Liverpool in a couple of weeks, and I'm diverting, I want Liverpool to win that. And I'm going to explain later why. So, Cooks, first goal. I actually thought Gabriel had scored, and it would have been the perfect revenge if Gabriel would have scored. But I think it was an own goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it came off Botman, which is a real shame because I'd also have loved Gabriel to score. And I loved that little celebration Gabriel and Ødegaard did, kind of mocking Bruno's celebration with I don't know how you can best describe what I'm doing there for audio listeners, but, putting their hands in the air, trying to be a tiger or whatever it is. But, yeah, great goal. Great to score early as well, because I think you could see in the opening 10 minutes exactly what Newcastle were trying to do. They definitely watched that Porto game. They tried to slow it down at every opportunity. Karius was taking forever over the goal kicks. Everyone was taking forever over the throw-ins. There was a lot of needle in the game. They were trying to slow it down, but that goal opened it up completely. And that's so vital for us to score early, because when we do come up against these sides that intentionally look to slow the play down, if we're able to score early, it just completely eradicates their game plan. It means they have to come onto us, and it means that we can just then go and do what proved to be so fantastic for the rest of the game. But I think it's really worth saying as well that I think this team have done so well to win yesterday by such an impressive margin, considering that this group of players, consider we only made one change yesterday, Jorginho coming in for Trossard, but this group that has done so well against Liverpool, against West Ham, against Burnley, they had to go out to Porto and had a really tough game out there. It's more or less been the exact same group of players, and they've been run into the ground recently. And to come out unscathed with any injuries is great in itself. But for them to have put in a performance in that first half that was so good, that was so intense after the games that we've just had, I think you've got to give huge kudos to this team for doing so well, for scoring 4 goals. And I think in that second half, it was quite evident that we were, we were flagging a little bit. It was getting a little bit slow. I don't think the play was anywhere near as intense. But to then still score another 2 goals in the second half, I mean, the work ethic of this team is the best I've known it.
Oh yeah. Work ethic. I mean, I'd love to go through every player, honestly. I just think they did not stop the whole first half. Chris, I was thinking about this, and I said this to Carl yesterday as well, Cook. Get an early goal, they got to come out. They can't sit. They time wasted up to the first 12, 15 minutes. They definitely time wasted because I was watching it when the goalkeeper was taking time, the throw-ins.
Yeah.
It's boring. And I again said that on the radio, time waste, as long as you don't time waste. And the ex-player said it's the dark arts. And I nearly went, well, it's very boring and a waste of time. But I didn't want to. But is there a player on this field that covers more space, more ground, more anything than Ødegaard? He was everywhere, even getting booked. I didn't have that fear like I did with Declan Rice at Porto, that he was going to get sent off. Ødegaard's not really that sort of player, is he? But he was everywhere that first half.
Yeah, and he leads our press in so many instances because he's the one that's the highest sort of furthest forward player. If you think about the way that we describe Ødegaard and his position on the pitch, and at times earlier in the season he's been a little bit deeper when we're in build up in possession, but actually he's also he's always been that person that leads the press. So he just covers so much ground. It's really, really quite impressive, like the engine, the energy, but it's kind of controlled press. It's like it's purposeful press, because if you think about back in the day, we used to have Alexis Sanchez who would absolutely bomb off, and he'd close someone down and someone would just pass, the opposition players would just pass around him, and he'd turn around and throw his arms up in the air like, why aren't the rest of you pressing? Well, Ødegaard presses, but because of the system and the structure that Arteta has built, he knows that he's going to lead the press, but actually there's going to be other players that are also leading the press as well. And that's why we win the ball back so high up the pitch. Like, I know we're sort of jumping backwards and forwards, but we won the ball high up the pitch a couple of times. And if you think about Saka's goal, that came from a bit of a press. I mean, all right, it was a stupid Newcastle mistake where he's passed the ball in the middle of the pitch to Havertz, but we're still winning the ball back in the opposition half. And Ødegaard is a big part of that.
We love Ødegaard, don't we? We just love him.
You know my feelings on that, man.
I also wanted to talk about, I think it's so hard today because there's so many things I want to talk about, but let's just talk about the goals and stuff. So I've actually lost count. Who scored our second goal? My brain has gone.
Havertz.
Oh, yeah, cool. Sorry. So, and that was a lovely footballing goal, wasn't it, Cooks? I mean, if you want anyone in front of goal in that position, so we were able to sing his song, it's Kai Havertz.
Yeah, definitely. And great work from Martinelli as well to keep the ball in and to get the cross back to Kai Havertz. But there he is. Right place, right time, putting the ball in the back of the net, 60 million down the drain. Kai Havertz scores again.
Scores again.
Beautiful.
It was lovely, wasn't it? So the thing is, I know, like, we've spoken about this before, but I think with Newcastle, I have PTSD from the 4-4 back many, many years ago. We were 4-0 up at half time. We were absolutely cruising at St James's Park. And I wasn't the person I am now. And I was like, we've won this, half time, we've won it. I was loving it. And I think there's always that little something in my head that goes, yeah, it's Newcastle. Yeah. But I wasn't like that at half time last night. I was like, get another one and we'll start to enjoy it. So we go in at half time, 2-0 up. I was actually quite surprised that Newcastle actually came out and tried to play second half, because we have to say that the first 10, 15 minutes, Chris, it was like a normal football game, wasn't it? Where Newcastle actually tried to do something.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I think they had to, because their game plan, as we've already talked about, their game plan to start off was effectively frustrate, see if we can, nick a goal on the counter. That was kind of their approach. And as soon as we destroyed that within 18, 20 minutes with that goal, it just essentially changed the entire dynamic. So they were never going to be as bad as they were in that first half. But I have to be honest with you, and I wrote this in my blog this morning, as soon as that, because I have PTSD from the 4-4-2 as well, because I was literally in the stadium at St James's Park, having watched that horrendous role. But this is a totally different Arsenal team. This is an Arsenal team that's so good defensively and is so solid that when that second goal went in, you can't say it out loud, But I honestly thought to myself, this game is done. Genuinely, in my head, I was like, this game is done. But I was saying to other people, we still need the third goal, and I won't be 100% satisfied until we get that third goal. But at halftime, went to go and have a few beers with a couple of my mates, and in my head, I knew that this game was done, because this Arsenal team, they don't tend to cock up like this season. They don't tend to cock up when we're in dominant positions like that.
No, I sort of get that. 2-0 always worries me, Cooks. Always. 2-0 does. It just does, because they get one back and then it goes panic stations. The whole ground starts to stress. We put the stress on the players. They get one more, it's 2-2. Not that I'm a little bit like Chris. I was a bit more confident. When the third went in, I was really confident. And at that point, I then wanted to tweet BBC Radio Newcastle and asked to go back on post-game. But I thought, no, don't go too soon. Arsenal, what can possibly happen. But third goal, talk us through it.
Trying to remember what one that was. Who
Saka.
Saka, yeah, of course. How can I forget? No, I've got it. I remember it.
It's becoming such a blur, all these goals, isn't it? And who scores when and stuff.
Too many in the past couple of weeks. Come on, Arsenal, what are you doing to me? No, definitely. Yeah, I mean, brilliant work again from Havertz playing it into Bukayo Saka. But then, I mean, it's all Saka, isn't it? I mean, Kai Havertz gets the assist, but it's just Saka's brilliance. It's not even a shot with a great deal of power on it, but the placement of it is absolutely perfect. If anything, I thought it was quite a tired shot. But brilliant placement, brilliant goal. He just can't stop scoring at the minute. I mean, I know he had his critics earlier on in the season, but he's already surpassed what he got in terms of goals and assists last season. And so I can't sing his praises highly enough. He is, without doubt, our most important attacker. I think what Declan Rice has brought to this team is sensational.
We're going on to Declan.
I'm sure we are. But what Saka's bringing to us, I mean, it's crazy to think that for the Euros coming up in the not too distant future, we've got Saka, Rice, Bellingham. I mean, if Southgate messes this up, I mean, that's a different story for a different day. But yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. And I just wanted to touch on Newcastle as well, going back to what you were saying earlier, because I'm really surprised at what's happened to them. Because they were so good last season and they always gave us a difficult game. I mean, we won their 2-0 at St James's Park, but it wasn't an easy game and they made it really difficult for us at the Emirates Stadium. And what I really associated, and I think what everyone else associated with Newcastle last season, was how solid they were defensively. That seems to have gone completely out of the window, and I'm not too sure why. I know they've had their injuries. Lascelles has been in the team, but Shaw and Botman is what they built that defensive solidity on last season. I know they had Livramento starting yesterday. Trippier seems to have gone off the boil massively. I thought he was dreadful for them yesterday. Dan Burn wasn't in the team. So I can't quite work it out. But you look at their front three as well. Isak's coming back from an injury, but you've got Isak, Almiron, Anthony Gordon up top. That was a front three that was blowing teams away earlier on in the season. Like, it was doing so well. And okay, they haven't got Callum Wilson. They've not got Joel Linton. We're having to deal with injuries ourselves. But Newcastle, I thought, were dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. And apart from that 10-minute spell after the second half where Isak had that chance where he skinned Ben White and it went, quite far over the bar. Apart from that, I didn't think there was any threat from them at all.
No.
Yeah. Can I just jump in just for a second, Amanda?
Yeah,
so on that, what's interesting, one of the things I did pre-game is I was listening to a couple of Newcastle podcasts just to get their kind of vibe, and they seem to think that Botman's fall from grace has almost been based on injury. So he's not been the same apparently since he returned from injury. Shaw again has been in and out. I think their failure to be able to maintain a consistent, stable defensive unit, I think, has cost them. But also, this is classic because they've also played in the Champions League. And so what's happened is the reason they've got all of these injuries is because they went into the Champions League and they were effectively trying to play the same team every week. And you just can't do it. You have to rotate it. I mean, we talk about that ourselves. Like we're talking about the fact that we wanted Jorginho to come in, a bit of rotation. And had Arteta have been able to, I'm sure he probably would have rotated a little bit more between Burnley away, Porto and then Newcastle, but we've just not been able to do it. And the fact that the good thing, the upside, as you were saying, Cookie, the upside is that by getting these goals, it's enabled us to almost bring players off when they've looked a bit fatigued. So I think the goal scoring has helped to mask like what would inevitably be fatigue for us.
Absolutely. I was worried about fatigue, actually. I was talking about that with the Porto, and I just want to just touch on Porto a second. When we lost to Porto, and we deserved to lose, to be honest, although they would dive in every 23 seconds and stopping the game. Um, at the end of the Porto game, I said, we will beat Porto. I am so convinced. I've never been more convinced of anything. If we play like we did yesterday, James and Chris, we will beat Porto at home. And if you think the atmosphere was good last night, that night is just gonna wow. But that was just my point I wanted to make in case we forget. Declan Rice. We just alluded to him, and I've got some stats. Thank you to Carl Stark. Declan Rice's game by numbers versus Newcastle: 94% pass accuracy, 45 pass completed, 7 ball recoveries, joint most, 4 chances created, most, 1 interception, 1 assist, best defensive midfielder in the Premier League. Declan Rice's Premier League corner stats this season: before the winter break, 5 corners, no assists. Now, after the winter break, 22 corners and 4 assists. And there's one other. Arsenal have now scored 11 goals from corners this season, 2 more than any other side. I can't remember having a corner taker as good as Declan Rice ever. He is so precise. It is like, it's exquisite. So, when there was a break in play, I voiced Anthony Gow, who was his youth team coach, and I said, God knows what you did teaching him corners at 8 years old. But let me tell you, it's all come to fruition now because he is becoming one of the most incredible players, Cooks, isn't he? Just how many times do we talk about Declan Rice on this podcast? Every single time.
Well, he already is one of the most incredible players in England. You know, he's arguably, I don't want to say England's best player because you've got, Jude Bellingham in there as well. But go back to my previous point, if you've got him, Bellingham, and all these other players that England have got, we're in such a good, healthy place for Arsenal and for England. But he has probably been our best signing in the past 20 years. I can't really think of anyone that has transformed the team so vastly in the way that he has. And I'll die on this hill, but I think he is so suited to that left 8 position. And I really hope that he's able to make that his own. But to caveat that, I do think he's also exceptional playing at the base of the midfield. So I'm not really too fussed where he lines up, but I think in terms of what he offers to the team, playing in that left 8 role where he's advanced and can press, about 5 yards further up the pitch, I think it makes such a difference. And that's why we saw that intensity last night. And I really hope in the game against Porto, we line up with a similar midfield. He's able to do the same sort of things because he's just fantastic in that role. And to get assists, to get goals, he can do it all from that position. So I think he's more of an asset than he already has been this season when he's playing a little bit further up the pitch. But his set pieces are fantastic, as are Bukayo Saka's, it has to be said, from the other side. But I think Rice's are in a league of their own. I mean, he's so good at that. And it makes you wonder, why on earth weren't we doing it earlier on this season? How many more goals could we have got from set pieces? And he was unfortunate not to score himself. He had a very good chance in the first half, and it was a decent save from Karius. But yeah, fantastic player. We are so fortunate to have him. That 105 million we paid for him. I mean, what's he worth now? 150? His value is just going up and up and up.
Easy, isn't it, Chris? I mean, he's I mean, in all aspects of his game, not only an exquisite corner taker, the midfield side of his game, the fact that you just can rely on him. And I think one of the reasons that we weren't so good against Porto was he gets booked in the first minute. And I think it hindered his game. I wasn't saying he was really poor on Wednesday evening. To be honest, none of them were that good. But just love having him in the side.
Yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. There's lots of individual little bits that I could pick out about Declan Rice. Like the way that he wins the ball whilst standing up is just amazing. It's like reverse anti-Mustafi or something. The positions that he takes up, like he actually was, he was part of the build-up, I think, for the Saka goal. I think he was quite high up on the pitch. It was him, Havertz, and Saka. So, I can't wax lyrical, and I can't really add too much more to what Cookie said. He's just a fantastic footballer. We're very, very lucky. I do think that he could be a difference maker for us, whether or not it's enough this season, but also he's available. Like, he's fit and he's available and he plays a
Touch
lot.
wood. Everybody touch wood. Do not say that.
Done
Oh
that.
my God.
Done that.
I feel for faint. Don't say things like that. Don't. And we're moving on from that, Christopher, right now. We really are. So for everyone listening and everyone watching and stuff, do you like this time of day for a podcast? It does seem there's quite a few extra ones in the chat room, which is fantastic. Welcome to you all. Please leave comments on our YouTube or tweet us. Let us know if you like these breakfast shows, because we normally go live at 7, 7:30. We can do more of these if you prefer to talk to us in the sunlight. It's totally up to you lot. Obviously, we can't guarantee every week we can do a breakfast show, but if you like them, I quite like it. It's good. Right. Let's go on to they scored. Cooks, talk us through their goal. To be
Hold on.
fair,
You don't want to talk about the fourth goal?
yes, but we scored the full first. Sorry, yeah.
Kiwior.
Hold on.
Jakub Kiwior. Come on.
I know
Declan
I've got
Rice.
Jakub Kiwior written down here because I actually wanted to talk about Jakub Kiwior. And there was something, hold on, in the chat room where someone was talking. Let's get his question up. Sorry, 1 second.
While she's doing that, what I will say, I don't know about you, Cookie, but I do think that it helped having Karius in goal, because he probably should have saved that Kiwior one, shouldn't he? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Karius looked nervous, I think, every time he got the ball. You could just tell he had no intention to play it short at any given point. He just wanted to boot the ball at every single opportunity. I do feel quite bad for him. I mean, coming into a game with this intensity, with the reputation he's got, it's a combination that's never really going to work well. But yeah, he definitely should have saved it. But on that note, over to you, Amanda.
So, Biddy Youssef, welcome to the show. We have got to talk about Kiwior. I don't want to be Arteta right now. Having Tommy back, Timber and Zinchenko, that's a monster headache. Well, Tommy's injured, Timber's injured, and Zinchenko maybe coming back soon. I love that sort of headache, don't you? Sorry, Cooks, you can carry on with the with Kiwior, but I'm loving that sort of headache, and I'm actually surprised how well he's adapted to that left back position.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. And in those games where people were scrutinising him a bit more against West Ham and Fulham, when we didn't put in our best performances, I think we've now got a really good system where White is the guy that's inverting at times, and Kiwior is just able to do what he's so good at, being a defender. But I think it's almost a bit of an insult to say that he's just good at being a defender, because his passing game yesterday on that left-hand channel was exceptional. I thought he was so good yesterday. Everything he did, his work in tight spaces, his composure, calmness under pressure. I'm going to be singing his praises for a while, because I know he got a bit of stick out in Porto. And okay, he didn't have a great game, but you know, who did in that match? But last night he really redeemed himself, was absolutely fantastic, as he was against West Ham, against Burnley, for the 45 minutes he played against Liverpool, where in all of those games, I'd say he was above average. And I think, you know, that sounds like I'm not being all that fair on him, but he was more than solid. But yesterday he excelled. He was impeccable. He was so good. And it's going to be exciting when we've got Timber, Tomiyasu, and Zinchenko back. And the beauty is that these guys are versatile. When they do come back, maybe Kiwior will be rotating with Gabriel a bit more. And Gabriel was fantastic yesterday as well, by the way. But if we see Kiwior come in, maybe at centre half, we could see Tomiyasu and Timber playing at right back. Let's not forget, those guys can also play at centre half. So great to have these versatile options. I don't think it's a headache. I think it's great to have those options. And if you look at our depth in defence at the minute, we don't have any. So we desperately need those guys back. It's not a headache. It's a beautiful problem to have. But for me, he doesn't get dropped at the minute. I do think there will be games for Zinchenko. I mean, Porto at home in the return leg might be one of them, because we want to dominate the ball a bit more. We need his intricate passing. But yeah, he's just he's not someone that I'm looking to drop at the minute. He's been fantastic.
Can I just add a couple of bits on that? So when we first signed him from Spezia, one of the things I was reading up about him was his distribution. Like you said, his passing, Cookie, was amazing. Like, one of the things that I remember reading up about, people saying, like, this guy has got a really, really good sort of he's got a good pass on him, like long distribution, diagonals, the short stuff. So really, really good. But I also think there's something about when players get a run of games, you can really see that they get into like the cadence of being able to demonstrate their quality. And I think that's probably the thing with Kiwior, because previously he's now had a run of games and he's looking good. Whereas previously he's just kind of been chucked in for a Carabao Cup game, or last season it was like chucked in for a Europa League game or stuff. I think there's something to be said about players getting that sort of the rhythm, and I think that's what's happening to Kiwior at the moment. He's in the rhythm and playing well.
It's all coming good, isn't it? All the players are coming good. They really are. It's good times. Listen, as I say all the time, enjoy it now. 2 points behind the leaders. We're gonna beat Porto. I don't often say things like that. And
That's a
it's,
bold. Do you not remember
I
Sporting
know,
last season? Let's
I
not speak
know.
too soon, Amanda.
No, but I do feel confident, and I never speak like this about any match we ever play in. And I'll stand by that. I just feel if we've got all the players fit, and Chris, we can't talk about what you've just said about Declan Rice, but as long as everyone's fit, then
If
we've
we've got
got a
all
really
the
good
players
chance.
fit, Amanda will freeze. Or is that just me?
All the players fit. What do you mean freeze? Look, there's people saying, don't say what you've just said. Hold on a second. Oh, there's so many. I'm going to come to your questions in a minute because we have got so many. So we go 4-0 up and we're all singing, we're all dancing, everyone's happy. I've decided to tweet the radio show. I didn't want to wait to the end and said, would you like me on? And then they go and score. And I have to be honest, I was actually talking to my neighbour. I didn't see the goal. So I don't know who's at fault, Cooks. I don't know what happened. And I fell asleep during match of the day because we got back so late last night. I will watch it later again. But what actually happened? Could you tell me and everybody else?
Yeah, so it's just that Dan Burning swinging cross, and then you have to say it's a fantastic looping header from former Arsenal man Joe Willock. I mean, how lucky are we now to be in a position where we're scoring so many goals at will that we're allowing our former players to score against us? What a beautiful position to be in. But yeah, look, in all seriousness, it's just a moment where we switch off, and I'm not going to rip into the team for this one because, like I said earlier, I think we were flagging at that point in the game. You know, we'd made a couple of substitutions. I think bringing on Nketiah, Smith-Rowe, Trossard, Nelson, making wholesale changes is really good for freshening up the team. But I think it disrupted our flow a little bit. And I think, you know, it was maybe just a few too many in such quick succession. And I'm not saying that was down to the result of the goal. I think why that goal happened was simply because we were caught on our feet a little bit. We were a little bit too tired, and you can look at individual errors in that one, but you know, I'm just going to chalk it down as a great Joe Willock goal. Fair play to him. Got a good reception when he scored the goal. Frustrating not to keep the clean sheet, but we saw the game out very well from that point. No more scares after then. Very professional performance, and yeah, no complaints from me.
Absolutely. It would have been nice to have the clean sheet, Chris, but as I said, alluded to before, 25 goals in 6 games and only 3 conceded. That was one of them. It didn't dampen mine. I did see a few people get a little bit annoyed on social media, and I thought they were absolutely mental. We've just beaten a team 4-1 after losing. And also, we didn't feel like we lost our intensity. And I thought he made all the subs at really good times. He had to, really. I know we haven't got a game till Monday week. We play Sheffield United Monday week away, don't we? So we get a little bit of a break now. But I thought the subs came on, and there's a lot of questions about ESR. So I think that's what we're going to start with. Thank you for all your questions. Because I'm doing this on my own today. There is so many questions here, and I've starred them all, which means it's going to take me a few seconds to find them. Here we go. So Carl Stark says, what does the future hold for ESR? Does he have a future at Arsenal? I'll come to you first, Chris.
I suspect that we might be asking that question in the summer, and I suspect that he might, if a good enough offer comes in where we can get enough money from it, I just get a feeling that Arsenal might cash in. I don't know how long he's got on left of his contract. I think it's probably 2 or 3 years, but it just feels like we are moving in a direction as the team is moving in a direction, and Smith-Rowe doesn't seem to be going in that same direction. Just my gut feel.
Okay, so James, I'm going to ask you this one. Wookie Cookie, love that name. Welcome to the show. If a big offer comes in for your ESR, do you sell?
Well, these last 3 months of the season are absolutely gargantuan for Smith-Rowe. He has to play regular football. And I'm not saying that he has to be starting games regularly, but I think we need to see more of those Nottingham Forest type games where he starts and then maybe comes off around 60 minutes, or he's getting half an hour at the end of games. He needs to basically be featuring, for me, in more or less every single game, either from the bench or from the beginning. And then I think we're going to be able to put ourselves in a better position to make an assessment as to whether he should stay or whether he should go. it's a really difficult one to say at the minute because he's had 2 very bitty seasons in the sense of he's been so in and out of the team. He's never got any rhythm going. Right now, he's probably in his fittest stage over those past 2 years. He rolled his ankle not too long ago. I don't think we're going to read too much into that. He missed 1 game, but since then he's been back and he's been looking good. You know, he started the game against Nottingham Forest. I thought he looked good. Came off the bench in a game before that, looked good. I thought he looked good when he came off the bench yesterday. There was a moment where he absolutely bodied one of the Newcastle players, left him on the floor, made a great run down that left-hand channel. Really unfortunate not to score himself if it wasn't for a Dan Burn clearance. I do still think there is a future for him at Arsenal, but he has to remain fit for the next 3 months, March, April, May, has to play regular football. If he does all of those things, I think we keep him. But you also have to look on the other side of the coin and say, well, if we get to June, July, and then Aston Villa or Brighton, whoever it may be, come in and slap 40 million on the table, and let's say he's not played a lot of football, he's not contributed in terms of goals, I think it's very hard for Arsenal to say, no, Smith Rowe is definitely off limits, because after 2 injury-plagued seasons where he's not played a lot of football, if an offer like that comes in, you're probably not going to get that again. So it's a real headache. But for me, as an Arsenal fan, as a Smith Rowe lover, and from what I saw yesterday, I still think if he stays fit, that's the big thing. If he stays fit, he can still have a future at Arsenal because he's such an asset. He's a very unique footballer. And I'm hoping and praying he stays fit and we keep him.
Okay, well, there's another option. So Links for Life 240. Thank you for your question. Do you think that ESR should go on a short-term loan to get him back where he was and give him some game time? Just a quick answer on that. Cookie, yes or no?
Depends where to. I think it's going to be quite cut and dry with Smith Rowe come the summer. I think they'll either sell him or keep him. I don't think he'll be alone in the mix.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm just echo what Cookie said there. It just feels like, where would he go, and what sort of short-term loan? What, from August to December or something? It just feels like we need a decision.
Okay, so Biddy says, I don't know why people seem to think that Arteta doesn't like ESR, forgetting totally his injury struggles. It's going to be interesting to see what happens to him because we all love ESR. I think every Arsenal fan, he gets a great applause when he comes on the pitch, whenever he plays. Okay, so John Rowe said, we're just going to swap from question to question, different topics. Bench against Sheffield, Partey, ESR, Jesus, Trossard, Timber, Vieira, Tommy, just a thought. I don't think Timber's close for a bench. It would be nice to see Partey on the bench. Not sure what's going on there if he's nearly ready. That would be a lovely bench, wouldn't it, guys?
Yeah. I'd like, I think probably, and with a whole week of training, I suspect that Partey will be back. And Jesus was on the bench yesterday, he just didn't get on. So I just wonder whether or not he might decide is he going to slowly ease him back in, or maybe he starts against Sheffield United. But whatever it is, we're starting to get players back, and the benches, as opposed to, I think it was the West Ham game, was it, Cookie, where there were a few players on there and we're looking at it and going, I don't even know who that player is.
Yeah, I said that. But interesting talking about the bench, Cooks. Lee Highbury Halls, don't want to take away from a fantastic performance, but it worries me, the quality coming off the bench. Are you worried?
Depends in what sense, really, because like I've said countless times now, Nketiah, Nelson, El Neni, Cedric Suarez, these are the guys that come on when we're 4-0 up. These are not the guys that come on when you're looking to chase a game, when you're looking to get a goal. That worries me because I wouldn't trust those guys to come on and change the game. And maybe I'm being a bit unfair because we know that Nelson came on last season against Bournemouth, was fantastic, scored that goal. Can he do that again? I'm not too sure. Does he fully trust Smith Rowe to come on and change the game? I don't know. I do think he's getting better, and I do think he would be one of the first substitutions I would look at. But to have someone like Trossard, I think he's a game changer on there. Fabio Vieira, when he's fit and firing, we know that he can be influential off the bench, but he's been out for so long. I think it's a very valid concern to have. But going back to that previous comment, if we could have Thomas Partey back on the bench for Sheffield United, I think this game maybe came a little bit too early for him. I think they want to ease him in, and to come through yesterday unscathed, to now have over a week off before Sheffield United, bring Partey in for that one, to then have Jesus on the bench as well, Zinchenko hopefully not too far away. I think Tomiyasu is probably going to be a little bit longer. That seems to have all gone quite quiet. Timber, I'm not pinning any hopes on until maybe April. So I see the concern, but I think we've got players coming back. I think we're in a good position. And just quickly going back to the Smith Rowe point, if you look at our next 2 fixtures, Sheffield United away, Brentford at home, don't know about you guys, but I think Smith Rowe has to start one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at questions.
Maybe-
I did so go on, Chris.
I was going to say maybe maybe you look at the Brentford one because we'll be playing Porto a few days later, and that's an opportunity for some rotation. But go on, Amanda.
I alluded to this before, and now I'm going to discuss this now. A better you. What is the best result from an Arsenal vantage point in the Liverpool versus City game? Now, hear me out. Obviously, a draw is the best result if you think that we've got a chance of catching City. However, I think we've got more of a chance of catching Liverpool. So I want Liverpool to win that. And then we go to the Etihad. And then if we beat City, we probably could go maybe 4 points clear of them. And then it'll be between us and Liverpool. I think they're more likely to implode than City, Christopher. However, I'm sure you disagree, but let's hear it.
I do disagree. I would absolutely take both of them dropping points. So the draw. I do understand. I kind of get where you're coming from, though, because Liverpool have got a lot of games. Like they're not playing in the Premier League this weekend because they're playing in the Carabao Cup. They've still got the FA Cup. They're still in the Europa League and they're fighting for the title. And they're starting to pick up a few injuries. So I feel like they can be catchable. But no, you can't have me agreeing to a Liverpool win. I can't have that.
Is it because you can't stand Liverpool, like my other half, who keeps putting more no's than anything? Or is it because you're thinking logically, let both teams drop 2 points?
It's a bit of both.
Okay, but that's the reason is because Liverpool have got a lot of games and they concentrate, and City have. But we know City don't implode. Season after season, Cooks, they don't implode. We got more chance of Liverpool imploding.
Potentially. But if you look at Liverpool's running, they by far have the easiest one. And let's not forget, they've got City at home. Some of their big games are at home. I don't like the look of their running. I think it's very favourable to them. Let's not forget, we've also got the Jurgen Klopp love train going on. So all of these things coming into play doesn't bode well for Liverpool winning that, because I think if Liverpool beat City, that then spurs them on to win the league, which I really don't like. So I'm not entirely sure what result I want from that, but I don't want a Liverpool win. I don't think City have been all that convincing in their past couple of games, to be honest with you. They've drawn against Chelsea, then they just about got past Brentford. They just about got past Bournemouth yesterday. I think we can go to the Etihad and be fairly confident. But the reason that I don't want Liverpool to win that game is because you look at our fixtures away from home and we've got some big ones coming up. And I know Fulham won at Old Trafford, but it's not a place that we travel well to. We've got to go there. We've got a North London derby at White Hart Lane, and we've got to go to City. These are 3 massive games away from the Emirates Stadium that we could potentially drop points in. And we've got to win, I think, 2 of those, basically, to stay within the race. If we drop points there, and then if Liverpool beat Manchester City, I think it's done.
Okay. So with that, and you're talking about the Etihad, let's get to that game. I know we've got games to play, but this is obviously the big one we are looking at. From Carl, can we win at the Etihad? I think it depends, doesn't it? If it was next weekend, I'd be very, very much more positive than I've ever been. I've seen us win at the Etihad. It was the first time I ever went. It was the most bizarre experience. We did win, and everyone wrote us off. So, Chris, I mean, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because it's not for a while yet. But do you think we've got a chance?
No, because we always seem to get spanked up there. So I'm not being positive on that one. I just think night follows day when it comes to Arsenal in Manchester. And I sadly think that we'll probably end up losing that. It'll be a tight game, but I still don't think we'll have enough.
Cooks?
Do I think we'll win? I'd be being incredibly optimistic if I said I think we will. I'd bite your hand off for a draw at the Etihad. But I think we're in a really good position to get something there, because look at all the players coming back. Look at the football we're playing. It's really not that far away. It's a month away. So it will come around very, very quickly. If we've got everyone available, if we've got the luxury of picking from, okay, who's going to be in midfield? Partey, Jorginho, Declan Rice, Ødegaard. I mean, to have those options, to also have, the Havertz, Jesus, Trossard problem up top, to have, maybe Fabio Vieira more minutes under his belt, Smith Rowe more minutes under his belt, Tomiyasu back, Zinchenko back. Look, it's stupid to say we haven't got a chance to win when you look at all those options. It looks fantastic, but it's City away. It's a different animal. But what I would say is we went there last season when we were a wounded animal. We had Rob Holding in the middle of defence. I think it'll be a totally different game. We've just got to make sure the occasion doesn't get the better of us, and we play our football. We remain calm, remain level-headed. I don't think it helps that we've got a break after, I think it's Chelsea and then the City game. We've got a 2-week break. I'd much rather we played them quite soon after. So it's always interesting to see what happens after an international break. And if we pick up some injuries there, that could be a huge problem. But touch wood, none of that happens. We go to a fit team and wipe the floor with them.
So interesting. You think that Liverpool have got the easier run in. I think City have. If you look at City's fixtures, I think they've got the easier run in. Hence why my theory of Liverpool winning. Look, sorry, I can't read that. Julian White, second nature, who is supposedly easy running with the top three. Chris, you haven't answered that question, so unless you don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know. I haven't looked at their fixtures. I just know that it gets quite scary for us when we get into April and May. Like, I don't even want to look at those fixtures because, as Cookie already said, we've got a North London derby. We've got Man United away. We've got Brighton away as well. We've got some really hard games. I think we had the hardest, but I don't know. I haven't looked enough about City or Liverpool.
Okay, fine. Let's go to some other questions. Right, John Rowe says, do you think in Porto we were caught in two minds to go for it or play safe?
Interesting question. I think, like you said earlier, maybe that Declan Rice yellow card in the first minute played quite a big part in how intensely we went for this game. I'm clutching at straws on that one, but I think you could tell with Arteta's lack of substitutions that he was more than happy with a 0-0 draw, and I would have been as well. It's not what a lot of people would have wanted going into that game, and it sounds rather lacking in ambition to say a 0-0 would have been good, but it would have been. Like, if we're going to the Emirates Stadium with a clean slate, we've got every chance of winning that game quite comfortably. I do think that plays a part in it. And also it's evident as well with Martinelli's ball that he got caught out, that ended up in Porto scoring a goal. He's trying to set off Saka and Martin Ødegaard to create a situation where we could have gone on to win that game. So yeah, absolutely. I do think we got caught in two minds. It's a great point.
Chris?
Yeah, I can't really add anything to that.
Okay, fine. Next question. Carl Stark. Good with his questions today. Which do you prefer? Benny Blanco inverting from the right or Zinni from the left? Let's go with you, Chris.
Well, I actually like the fact that we can mix it up. So I'd like to be able to keep teams a little bit sort of surprised. Last season, when we started to dip in form towards after the new year, people were saying that, it's because teams have worked out what Arsenal do when they invert with Zinchenko. But now that we're able to do both, we can flip things in game. Then, hey, I just think it makes us more unpredictable. So I'm going to answer that question by not answering that question and saying both.
I agree. I love it. I love the fact that we can change things around. This is something that we've lacked in previous seasons. Cooks, anything to add to that?
Yeah, and we'll be able to do it a hell of a lot more when we've got Timber, Tomiyasu, and even Thomas Partey back. We've got so many options there to make us unpredictable. So yeah, I think it works very well for every situation with so many different types of players.
Agreed. Another one from Carl. Which one of the top three sides is in the best form? Cooks?
That'd be us.
Yep, seconded.
Yep, I think us as well. Oh, the questions are really good. Okay, this is interesting, actually. And I think, from Carl again, applause for Joe Willock after his goal. Anyone remember another opposition player getting applause after scoring against us? I don't think if we were 4-0 up that we would be clapping for an ex-player scoring against us. But we love Joe Willock, don't we, Chris?
Yeah, Willock is an absolute... he's a lovely lad, and we got a lot of money for him as well. He was never good enough to make it as a proper, Arsenal player into this iteration of Arteta's Arsenal. But hey, good luck to him.
Did you hear it, Cooks, last night? We sort of realised it was him, and I didn't clap. Carl did, I think. But did you realise that? Did you clap away or not?
I did when the commentator, stadium announcer said that it was him. And like I said earlier, it's just a nice moment, you know. At 4-0 up, obviously, you can look at it through rose-tinted glasses. If it'd have put Newcastle 1-0 up, I think it would have been a slightly different reaction. But no, fair play to him. It works out very nicely for him, and he's had such a horrible campaign of injuries. I just hope he's able to get over them and get back to his best.
Right. Okay. Thank you for all your questions. And for some reason, people want me to sing the Havertz chant. I'm not going to, because I've got the worst voice on the planet. I'm not sure why you want me to. Trust me, you wouldn't, especially at 11:30 on a Sunday morning. But it is a great song, isn't it? Absolutely is. And I just want to bring this point up by Gary Pepperman, who's actually a personal friend of mine. Hello, Gaza, who is married to a Tottenham fan who decides to message me during the game last night. It's quite funny. Gary said, I think we've had a few revenge games just recently, and I actually think we play in a revenge mode. If there is such a thing, I'm actually loving it. Hence Porto coming to us.
I wish we had Villa next. I would love Villa up next.
Villa, do you know Villa fans tweet me a lot? I don't know why. But saying that though, Cooks, they are only 6 points behind us.
Oh yeah.
It's a couple of games, isn't it? And thank you for everyone and all your fantastic questions today. Honestly, it's been brilliant. I just want to go back to what we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, boys. We were talking about the next 5 games. We're 2 games in. All of you went for 13 out of 15. I went for 15 out of 15. We're 2 games in. Are you going to change your prediction, or you still think there's going to be a draw somewhere along the line?
Nope. Have to win them all.
Yeah.
No, but you went for 13 out of 15 points.
So no, I didn't. I went for 15.
I think I went for 13, but I was looking at that Newcastle game.
You went for 12 out.
No, I didn't. I went for 15, Amanda. I promise you. I went for 15. Look back at the podcast. I went for 15.
You weren't on the podcast at 15 points. It was the next one you came on.
Yeah, and I went for 12. So we only had 4 games at that point.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I do apologise. I wrote 12 and it confused me. So me and you have gone for the maximum points in the amount of games that we were talking about. Chris, you're the one. You and Albert went for 13.
Yeah, because I was looking at that Newcastle game thinking we might get points there. After what I've seen yesterday, you've got to look at Sheffield United away and Brentford at home as that's got to be maximum points. Absolutely.
And then there was one more because we spoke for 5 games.
Chelsea
at home. Chelsea.
We have to beat Chelsea.
You have to.
Interesting, they're in a cup final this afternoon, aren't they, with Liverpool? Now, normally, we wouldn't want Chelsea to win a thing, would we? Ever. But you two, excuse me, who are you going for this afternoon?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
You can go first on that one, Chris.
Thanks for that absolutely flaming hot turd that you've just had, didn't we there, Cookie? I think... I don't like the Klopp loving stuff, but I hate Chelsea. I'd probably say Liverpool, and that really is horrible. Liverpool win that, nothing else.
I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to say I want Chelsea to win it. I don't want them to win it, but Chelsea, let's be honest, they're doing nothing in the league this season. You know, they're not a threat. I don't like that this could potentially spurn them on, but you know, maybe it keeps Pochettino in a job and maybe the wheels come off again in a month's time. I despise both of them. I don't want either to win. But if I had to pick, if this could knock Liverpool, yeah, let's go for Chelsea. Why not?
I'm so in your camp, Cooks, that it pains me to say it, but this Klopp loving, and if they win a game, my Scouse mates will win this cup. They'll be even more intolerable, and I love them all. But I think they need to be knocked down just slightly, and to be beaten by Chelsea would be quite an embarrassment at the moment, wouldn't it? Same for us, But okay, so we're going that right. Let's just talk about the next couple of games. So Monday week, Sheffield United 8 p.m. Then Saturday 5:30 we play Brentford. Then the Tuesday after we play Porto 8 o'clock. So we're going to get to see a lot of football from Monday week onwards. Look, I've said blatantly on this show that we're going to beat Porto. I probably shouldn't have said it, but that's how I feel. Do you feel confident for the next 3 games, Cooks?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. Sheffield United at home, I think they're dreadful. Like, let's be quite frank about it. If you've got title aspirations, you have to beat Sheffield United away. I say that with all due respect to them, but I think even their most hardcore fans would admit that they've been very poor this season. They're a team that look destined for relegation. So you have to beat them. Brentford at home, no excuses there. You have to win that game. And then Porto, if we go into that game having strung together 3 wins on the bounce, touch wood, then we should be in a really good position to win that as well.
Absolutely. Chris?
Yep, maximum stuff. Sheffield United have conceded 65 goals this season in 25 matches. They're averaging 2.6 goals conceded per game. They're nearly averaging 3 goals conceded every single game. We have to go there and beat them.
Yeah, we do. We don't know when we're going to be podcasting next, but the best thing for you lot to do is to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, press the bell, and then you'll get notified, and follow the Same Old Arsenal on Twitter and Instagram, TikTok especially. There's some great videos on there. And I just wanted to, we alluded to it before, but Ruth Beck is our sponsor, and we just want to show you the West Stand, with the West Stand Highbury badges that she does, all different things. I've got the East Stands and I carry it on my football bag now. So please go and check out ruthbeckart.com at the Etsy. I think I've said it right, Ruth. Sorry if I haven't, but ruthbeckart.com, that's it. And yes, please hit the like button. Sorry, one moment. I've just got to hide that. Yep, correct. I'm not very good at IT, am I? So I've got a couple of shout outs to do, but before we go, sum up your feeling at the moment. Chris, how are you feeling?
Very, very good. I really like that at the moment we can't even choose a man of the match because there are so many players that can win that accolade. So that bodes well for us, hopefully, for the remainder of the season.
Absolutely. Cooks?
Yeah, same for me. I think, you've got to give massive credit to this team for being in the position that we are in. Okay, we got knocked out of the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. You're not going to win everything, but to be where we are in a title hunt, still within a chance of overturning the deficit against Porto and going through to the next stage of the Champions League with all the injuries we've got, we've done brilliantly. We've got Jesus to add. We've got Partey, Zinchenko, Timber when he comes back, Tomiyasu. I mean, we're in a very good position. It's just important now that we keep these guys fit and keep the momentum going.
Okay, absolutely. Great show. Thank you to everyone in the chat room. Thank you to everyone on audio. I say it every week, but if you could rate us and star us or whatever you do on audio, that would be fabulous. As I said, I've got a couple of shout outs. One is to a very good friend of mine, an ex-Arsenal legend, Kevin Campbell. If you've all been on social media, you've seen he's been quite poorly, hopefully on the mend now. So big up to the lovely KC from everyone at the Same Old Arsenal podcast, and we wish your recovery well. My second shout out is to my lovely mum. One of the reasons we are doing a breakfast show is it's because it was my mum's birthday lunch today. She was 78 yesterday. She's had to put up with football all day, football all night on her birthday, but she married a gooner. What more can you say? So we postponed lunch from yesterday, and that's where I'm off to very shortly. Happy birthday to my lovely mum, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And everyone at the lunch is going to be talking about Arsenal because we're all Arsenal fans. Sorry about that, Mum, but we love you. And I've got one quick question, actually. Sorry, I wanted to ask this. The music at the Arsenal is terrible. I just need to have a word with the DJ. But what is it about playing Voulez-Vous at the end of the game? Am I missing something?
I do not have a clue.
Does
I'm not complaining, though.
Know why we're playing Voulez-Vous at the end of a game? He keeps playing it. I can't think of any tune of any player's chant.
I think it's that running down the wing Saka, that chant.
Is that Voulez-Vous?
Yeah.
Oh, I won't criticise it anymore then because I really, really don't understand it. Thank you for answering that. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Lynn said it's the Saka chant. Okay. I'll have a listen out now. Perhaps have a little sing. We got some good chance at the Arsenal. Absolutely, Havertz obviously being our one. I know I'm not going to sing it. Thank you for all your messages for my mum, guys and girls. That is it. We are off to go and have our Sunday lunch. Thank you for joining us on our first ever breakfast show. That you never know might be something that we will start to do. But from everyone at the Same Old Arsenal podcast, have a great Sunday. And remember, be nice, be kind, and always Arsenal. Bye, everyone.